In today's fast-paced world, businesses are constantly facing new challenges, from technological advancement to shifts in consumer behaviors. The market is changing more rapidly than ever before. So how can companies stay ahead? How can a company renew itself over and over again without losing everything? The answer lies in their corporate culture. In this video, I will show you how your culture can help you not only to keep up with the rapidly changing market space, but also stay ahead of it. But what is corporate culture and why is it so important for adapting? Corporate culture is something like a personality for the business. It consists on 5 parts. Number 1, manifestations. There are things like stories, rituals, and the shared language. The shared language of your company are things like how often you say shit or how often you tease your colleague. In fact, a friend of mine works in a huge office where employees scream at each other, "You asshole, fuck off," and worse. That's culture. But don't worry, my friend assures me that they all love each other. But here comes the really fun part. He told me that every new employee on the first day is like, "What's going on here? Where the hell am I?" And the employees who adapt to this language even stay longer in the company. Which leads me to part 2, core values. These are those that defines what the company stands for. For example, the company acquisition.com from Alex and Leda Hormozi stands for hard work, among other things. The next thing is direction. Culture is action, and action always leads to direction. But what is the right direction? Well, that is something you have to ask to yourself. But what could be helpful for you is the word purpose. There's a saying, no purpose, no action, no development. So what's the purpose of your company? For example, the main purpose of this YouTube channel is not about making money, though it would be nice too. It is to help companies to make work a great place for employees, because we spend so much time in our lives at work. Why not making sure that this time is meaningful? And the best way I know is through corporate culture. So every decision I make about this YouTube channel is based on this question. Is this what I upload here going to help for at least one person or company? If the answer is yes, then I will upload it. The 4th part of every corporate culture is about their working principles. That describes how employees work or would like to work together. But that isn't something you can define formal. Well, you can, but it won't work. For example, you can formally decide that employees should work as a team. But if you assess everyone at the end alone and not as a team, how likely do you think will your employees work as a team? Your working principles aren't what's written down. If you want to identify the working principles, you have to look how your employees are working. They are the unwritten laws. And now the last and my favorite part of corporate culture, topics of change. Culture management also means integrating positive change. And that's where the magic happens for adapting the culture. If you think that your culture is perfect the way it is, you couldn't be more wrong. Great corporate culture is never done. There's always something to improve. You can use these 4 questions. Number 1, what would we need to change about our image in order to be authentic? Number 2, how would we align to our actions even more closely with our values? Number 3, what would it take for our shared sense of direction to lead to success? And number 4, how would we live our working principles even better in the future? So now I've talked about the definition about corporate culture for around about 5 minutes. And I'm sure that some of you have no patience anymore and maybe say, if you don't tell me why I listen for 5 minutes what corporate culture is, I will punch you right in the face. Don't worry, here's the answer. I believe that you can only change something if you understand it in the first place. That's why it was important to tell you what corporate culture is. I know it's boring, but I hope you took some notes so that you know what your corporate culture is now. And now we can start with the fun part, how to adapt. There are 5 stages for adapting your corporate culture over and over again. Each one of them are awesome, but altogether a completely different level. Number 1, getting leaders on board. Everything is nothing without leadership. I'm sure especially in the time of self-management. Not everyone is a fan of this statement. But I believe that only the right leadership can bring employees on the next level. I don't mean leading through KPIs. I'm talking about leading for unleashing existing potential. And there is more existing potential than you might think. Leaders need to be able to communicate effectively, be able to act, have methodological skills for planning like Scrum, and have the right attitude. Sounds difficult? It is difficult, but it is worth it. Number 2, make cultural management structural. A professor of mine is an expert about corporate culture, and he's a fan about something he likes to call Culture Development Office. Its task is to coordinate, moderate, and bundle the different change topics. It ensures that change projects move forward and acts as a biotype for new things in a protected environment and learn from experience. By institutionalizing culture management in the form of a culture management office, you create a central point of contact of all matters relying to culture. In practice, it has proven to be a good idea for the CDO to be part of the management, for example in the form of the head of HR. This ensures maximum alignment with top management issues and decisions. If you want to learn more about the Cultural Development Office, please let me know in the comments. Number 3, create commitment. Successful company management always means getting a whole team on board and winning over employees as active supporters. The key to this is professional internal communication. I know, easy to say, harder to do, because communication is extremely complex as you are dealing with a lot of different people in the company, and their perception is always selective and subjectively determined, and the interpretation of this selection is always based on the individual's personal experience. For example, the shortest story I know is for sales: baby shoes never worn. Some people might think, oh no, the baby died before it even wears the shoes. Others might think the baby is born bigger than expected, so the shoes have no use for them. You see? 2 different interpretations from just 6 words. So communication is difficult. I have a little help for you. The 5 axioms from Paul Watzlawick. Number 1, you cannot not communicate. That means that every action is communication too. For example, if a leader is checking his mails during a meeting, this communicates that he truly gives a fuck about the meeting. Number 2, every communication has content aspects and relationship aspects. All information depends on the person who gives it to you. You're more likely to trust a statement if it comes from a person who you like rather than a person you hate. Number 3, communication is always cause and effect. Action always leads to consequences, so be careful what you are saying. And it's even hard to get the same reaction when you are talking to a group of people. Number 4, human communication uses non-verbal versus verbal modalities. Your body language and words should mean the same. When you say that something is really funny, but you don't laugh or not even smile, you show that you think that's not funny at all. And number 5, communication is symmetrical or complementary. You as a leader can give during a conversation your employees the feeling that you are above them or that you are at the same level. These are the 5 axioms from Paul Watzlawick. Number 4, implementing change topics. Stephen Hawking once said that intelligence is the ability to adapt to change. So the largest company is not automatically the most successful or the most efficient, not the financial strongest, but the one that adapts best to change. If you start implementing change topics, you will often hear things like, we have so much to do, we can't manage that at the same time. You have a choice. Is the implementing of the change topics your priority, or do you want to start change projects and cancel them all because you have so much work to do? But if you cancel them, you will never adapt to the changes in the world and the company will end up bankruptcy. This is where the influence of the Cultural Development Office is essential. It supports during the transformation. Of course, everyone has a lot to do, and of course, it is hard to divert resources from day-to-day business. But complaining is not a solution. The more focused and goal-oriented the change topics are taken on, the faster the effects will unfold. And this usually leads to significant relief in the day-to-day business. That is the primary purpose of change projects. But how can we do that? To implement more focused and goal-oriented change projects, you can use the OKR method. short for objective and key results. It follows these principles. It's about speed, absolute transparency, integrating of employees and defining the goals, and risk-taking. First things first, there is an OKR master who controls the whole process. So you start defining the mission statement of the next 3 years. After that, you define a 1-year goal, which are derived from the mission statement. After that, we come to the OKR planning, which starts at every quarter with the leaders and employees. In this planning, you define the key results for achieving the goals. Every employee can work only in maximum 3 objectives. And you also synchronize on every level of the company.
After the planning, the employees meeting after every 2 weeks or months discuss about the problems. This ensures more transparency and more support between the colleagues. At the end of every quarter is the OKR review meeting with leaders and employees, where everyone presents their goals, discuss their problems, and if necessary, they discuss if there is a new orientation needed. Directly afterwards, there is an OKR retrospective with the leaders, employees, and the OKR master. This is for the methodological questioning, which means that you ask yourself if the process is good enough. In addition, on a half-year basis, there is an OKR mission alignment meeting. There the leaders discuss if the mission statement and the yearly goals need adjustments. That's the OKR method. And last but not least, cultivate learning. Have you ever heard of something called Fuck Up Night? No, it has nothing to do with being able to say whatever you want in front of your boss. The Fuck Up Night is an event where people call each other about everything that has gone wrong and celebrate their mistakes or the mistakes of others. But the idea is not to celebrate mistakes, but to generate insights for the future, to reflect on what they've learned. It's about sharing experience, and above all, it is about creating a culture where nothing is hidden of fear of personal consequences. To make a long story short, error culture was yesterday. Learning culture is the new thing. Instead of failing fast, cultivate learning fast, and thus creates a learning organization that gradually outgrows itself. By using all this, your corporate culture can adapt in a rapidly changing market. And who knows, maybe your company will change the entire market.